LOD2, Creating Knowledge Out of Interlinked Data. Welcome to the LOD2 webinar series, Linked Open Data Tools and Services for Publishers, Enterprises and Governmental Institutions. LOD2 is a large-scale integrating project co-funded by the European Commission within the FP7 Information and Communication Technologies Work Programme. This 4-year project comprises leading linked open data technology researchers, companies and service providers. Coming from across 12 countries, the partners are coordinated by the Agile Knowledge Engineering and Semantic Web Research Group at the University of Leipzig, Germany. LOD2 will integrate and syndicate linked data with existing large-scale applications. The project shows the benefits in the scenarios of media and publishing, corporate data intranets and e-government. Once per month, the LOD2 webinar series offer a free webinar about tools and services along the linked open data lifecycle. Stay with us and learn more about acquisition, editing, composing, connected applications, and finally, publishing linked open data.
So first, I'll show the agenda for today. We'll do this presentation in 3 sections. So first, I will be doing the introduction on the Open Knowledge Foundation, a little bit of context about who we are and what we do. Christian will give a demonstration on Publicdata.eu about the platform and the functionality that we have developed on the platform. And then Irina will tell more about the CKAN software, which is underpinning all of this. And all of the functionality that's available in Publicdata.eu is available in the new beta, which has been released recently of CKAN, which is available as open source, and we hope many people will be using this as well. At the end of this session, there will be a Q&A where there's an opportunity for you to ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer those. So first of all, I'll explain a bit about our organization. The Open Knowledge Foundation is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to promoting openness in all its forms. And open knowledge, as we define it, is usually based on open data or open content. And therefore, there's a lot of activity that we do around making data available and making content more available, so we can use those to build knowledge out of the data and the content. And our activities are structured around communities and tools. The communities that we build often focus on a specific area of open data, for example, open government data, or open scientific data, or open cultural data, and we organize events around those communities. For example, our big conference, the Open Knowledge Conference, will happen again in September this year. We had the Open Knowledge Festival in Finland last year, and we have many smaller events and hack days around building tools and communities on open data and open content. Some of the tools that we develop are more in the area of open scientific data, for example, like crowdcrafting, which is a tool that we use to build crowdsourcing applications and help the general public in assisting researchers around scientific projects. We do a lot around literacy on data as well, such as the School of Data project, the Open Data Handbook, which is a handbook for people to better understand how to open up data. One of the projects that is most famous at the moment is the Open Spending project, which is a project which is showing how to transparently open up data from governments around the world, and we work with people in all of these different countries to help them release the data from their local or national governments. But when we talk about openness, what we actually mean is that a piece of content or data is open if it's available for anyone to freely use, reuse and redistribute it, subject at most, as we say, to the requirement to attribute and share alike. And we are very keen to make sure that there are no extra restrictions on the data. For example, we're not very keen on non-commercial stipulations because that will hinder and make it more difficult to understand in what context you can use and reuse data. So this is why we have this broad definition of open data and related types of openness. And we welcome you to have a look at our opendefinition.org website, which is a collaborative effort with the community to further refine and further develop new and better definitions of openness. Now, one of the projects that we're involved with is the LOD2 project. And the picture that you see here is depicting the LOD2 stack. And the LOD2 stack is a suite of components of different software tools that can be used to for the life cycle of linked data. And you can see the different stages in the life cycle about linking the different types of data, enriching the data, analyzing the quality, making it better explorable, and then store it and query it and further refine the data. And CKAN is one of the tools in this stack, which is more specifically focusing on discovering data, discovering open data, which is not only linked data but all other types of open data, and then specifically focusing on data from public administrations. So our role within LOD2 is in what's called the citizen use case to make linked open data useful for the general public. And Publicdata.eu is an aggregator site which connects up data from different open data portals from local governments, regional and national governments around Europe to better understand what data sets are being made available and how people can use the different data sets. And before we move to the demo of Publicdata.eu, I would like to show this other example of a site that we're running, which is called datacatalogs.org. Datacatalogs.org is listing open data portals, not just the ones that we use on Publicdata.eu, but all kinds of open data portals and catalogs that are run across the world. And you can see the list of official EU data catalogs there, and there are 110 catalogs in that group. And not all of these are currently being integrated in Publicdata.eu. That depends on technical feasibility and the availability of APIs from the different open data portals to enable that. But we try to continually improve the availability of more data from more open data portals in Publicdata.eu. So I'll hand over now to Christian, who will give a demo about the current state of Publicdata.eu and show you some of the features that we've developed over the last few months.
Right. Thank you, Sander. So my name is Christian Gudom, and I'm also with the Open Knowledge Foundation. My function is community manager within our open government data efforts. Next, we want to give you a quick tour and demo of the Publicdata.eu website. As Sander also mentioned, this is an aggregator site, and the idea is, of course, to give pan-EU access to public data, a one-stop shop for public data. The project, as mentioned, is funded under EU's Framework 7 funding, and as mentioned, also the site is developed and maintained currently by us at the Open Knowledge Foundation. Let's go on to the actual site. And before we dive into this, I just want to quickly give you a tour of the front page. You can see up here we have some categories, and over here on the right and in the top some visualization of the European map. Before we get into that, let's just scroll down. Next you see some cases where open data have been used for various applications. Also get a little more into that. And in the bottom here you can sign up to receive newsletters about important announcements regarding Publicdata.eu portal and European public data in general. And in the bottom you can, for instance, also read more about the API should you want to. Good, but let's start out by looking into the navigation of the site. Next, I'll be going through some of the notable social features that are available. We'll also look into some data visualization functionalities, and lastly, talk a little about the data formats. But first, as you see, we have different ways of searching for data. We have a broad search functionality here, or we have these categories of data sets, and you can see by the numbers how many data sets are in each category. We also have this map where you can go in and learn more about data sets from a specific country. For instance, France, that have almost 2,000 data sets. If you click that, that will bring you into a list of those data sets. And also, here on the right-hand side, you can see the groups that we saw on the front page before. Below, you see some of the tags attached to these data sets, and also you can query by formats down here in the bottom. So the search functionality lets you combine all these different strings. So let's say you want to look at transportation data sets. You see that narrows it down to 146. You can also combine that with, say, environmental data sets, which leaves you with a total of 14. Or you can also combine with, say, a tag such as automobile, which narrows the search down to 7 sets total. And now, if you want to move on to actual data set, let's try to go back to the front page, look into the full data set list here. You can click the sets and go in and have a look. First, you can see up here in the left-hand corner where the source of this data set comes from. So this is the main open public data portal from the UK, data.gov.uk. And you can also scroll down. These are the actual data sets that we'll be going into in a short while. But also down here you have a lot of additional information, among other the direct URL where you find this data set. And down here some different information and data about the set. Okay, so before we dig a little deeper into the functionalities of the actual data sets, I'd like to briefly go through some of the social functionalities, the social features of the site. You can see up here how I'm already logged in as a user. Let me just briefly log out so you can see how this works. Basically, what you do is you make a profile. In this case, I already have one. You basically make it first log in, and then that takes you to your dashboard and your newsfeed. So as you can see here, this is the general newsfeed for the site itself. If I click on myself right here, that takes me to my profile. Down here, I can follow how many data sets I'm following myself and how many people are following me. And that's one of the general ideas of the site, namely to be able to add a social factor to the data by not only being able to access them, but also connect with other users. As you can see, I'm following my colleague Mark, so I can see what data sets he's following, and also I can go in and browse his profile, his activity stream. For instance, I can see that Mark is following the population group, so I can use that to access like his preferences. I can also, let's say I go to a data set that I'm following myself. Let's say the accidental dwelling fires. I have the option you can see up here. I press follow. If I press unfollow, that's what it looks like right here. And I can either share that on social media over here, Google+, Twitter, etc. But also go in and actually explore the data. If you go in here and press preview, you see, okay, let me just do another example here to show you some of the visualization features. Let's do this one, for instance, municipal waste generation in England. You see here, for instance, let's do the second table here. We go in and data loads. So you have here the most basic view, the grid of the table, where you have the actual data inside. But this one also lets you visualize through graphs. Let's say over here on the right-hand side, you have various ways to control the visualization. Let's say I want to see columns. I choose, let's say we want to see 1996. We can go down and see columns right here. I can also, if I want to compare with another year from this data set, let's say I want to compare with 98, you can see in blue and yellow colors respectively how they compare to each other. So this is the graph view. If we want to move on and see the map view, I want to find a data set here that has geotagging Warwickshire schools, which is a list of the schools in Warwickshire, including property reference number, etc., etc. So if I go in and explore that right here, I have the option to look at a map and actually see where these schools are located. Let's say I click here, and on the right-hand side, I tell it the system that I want to see latitude and longitude, update like that. And that gives me a map, in this case, the eastern countryside next to Birmingham, and I can go in on the map and actually see where the schools are located. And then I can go all the way to this granular level and see information about this, each of the schools. So this is Gun Hill Infant School, obviously. So you actually, like the idea with the visualization tools is, of course, to give you as a user the ability to easier compare data sets and to easier find the exact data that you're looking for. And once you find those data, you can then, let's go back to this one right here. You can then choose, of course, to download those data, or you can choose to get the data in RDF as linked open data. And a really interesting functionality here is how most of these data are not available as RDF, but can be automatically converted into that using this functionality where you get to actually convert from CSV to RDF through this automatic converter, which is a wiki page. A wiki entry has been made for each data set, and from there you can not only download the RDF version of the data set, but also actually edit the mapping. Down here you can see how what entries or categories are in this data set. The column refers to the CSV file, the two columns there, and the mapping that relates to that in RDF. If you want to change that, you simply go into the edit mapping, and right here you can then edit the code itself and change that as you prefer. Right, so this is a basic intro demo of the site, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the Q&A in the end. And with that, I'd like to pass on the word to my colleague Irina.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So, hi, I'm Irina Bolichevsky. I'm the product owner of CKAN at the Open Knowledge Foundation. And CKAN is an open source, open data portal software. You can learn about it on ckan.org. It's maintained by the Open Knowledge Foundation primarily, but it has contributors around the world. With CKAN, we're really serving two main markets. One is we're providing search and discoverability functionality for end users and reusers. And two, we're providing data management tools for publishers and governments. So those are the kind of main things that we're trying to solve. So I will go through each one. If we start with search and discovery, historically, there hasn't been that much data available. And when data is available and it is openly licensed so that people can use it, it's still difficult to find. Often this data is located on a variety of departmental websites, on kind of several layers down. It's not necessarily well labeled. It's not clear how up to date it is. There isn't a timestamp of when it was updated. And you might not have a description. You might just have a title of a few other things. And finding it is very difficult, especially if you're looking to get data on a particular topic from a really wide area. A lot of benefit of reuse is about combining different data sets and doing something more with it. So CKAN really provides that online home for the data. So you get that kind of home page for each data set, a title, a description, tags. And as a user who comes to the central portal, you can browse, you can kind of search, you can facet, and actually the search is very very sophisticated. So as Christian was showing before, Publicdata.eu has a huge number of datasets. There's over 17,000 datasets from across several European catalogs. And these datasets have all been standardized so that you can search across them from one place and that the tags map to each other tags. So you can just type in and instantly narrow your search. But in addition to that, you can use these facets, and actually it's an incredibly powerful feature to be able to kind of facet in this way to say, well, I'm interested in hospital data, but for this moment, I really want UK hospital data. Or more specifically, I'm thinking about getting this data and building an app or visualization with it. So I need something machine readable. I don't really want PDFs. I want CSVs. And you can sort of narrow it down. Perhaps you only want something that's been specifically tagged as hospitals. You can reorder the results by alphabetically or kind of popularity, which is how many times that data set has been viewed. You can actually get a sense of what formats are in each data set and a description from the search page. So this is a hugely powerful way to discover and find data. And once you get there, it's not just a link, there's context. Usually the description talks about how this data set got created, when, who buys. So obviously you can look at the actual author. This is by the Northwest Public Health Observatory. You can go back to the website. You can look at the coverage. So this data talks about alcohol-related hospital admissions between 2002 and 2008, and it was released in 2009. So there's a lot more information that has been captured and brought out into the interface than you would get from just going to like the Department of Health and looking through a whole set of kind of static website pages. And I'll quickly kind of revisit the preview. So a lot of people do just want to download the data, and they might need to clean it up and do something else with it. But one of the things that we've been trying to do, especially more and more with CKAN and the sort of the version 2 that we've recently released the beta of, is to really lower the barriers to entry. So, and part of that is providing these previews, because a lot of the time you can actually get an answer instantly in your browser. So if I am interested in alcohol-related hospitalizations in the area where I live, which could be Camden, I can look this up, I can search, I can see kind of this is the rate of admissions for 2002 and so forth, and I can pretty much instantly engage with this data in an interactive way that is a lot more interesting and rewarding than just a download link. Similarly, obviously, I think as Christian showed, you can actually learn something from the actual graphing functionality. So this is alcohol-related hospitalizations, but kind of the percentage increase in 2007. So as you can see, some boroughs, the percentage went down year to year. For some it's really, mostly it's increased across the board. And that kind of gives you information. It might make you think, okay, well, actually what I need now is a data set that's specific to Enfield or Barnet, and kind of really look into why do these two stand out? What else happened in 2007? And that might mean that as a journalist or as someone who's trying to provide a service to people, I've got a kind of a beginning, something I can work with and something I can sort of follow through. And from here, you can also, we've done a lot to try and encourage people to discover other things. So you can actually add related items. So say I actually go in and write an article about alcohol hospitalizations in 2007 and in these particular bars. I can go in and add this item directly to this data set as a user and help people kind of discover things. So you can so as a kind of another end user, you can see what else people have done with it. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's something else, and you can find this in the related items. You can search across the whole site for different apps and ideas that have been related to the data that exists. So this showcases the reuse of data. Additionally, maybe I'm not actually that interested in alcohol. Maybe I just want to see everything that's in hospitals. These tags are also kind of browsing abilities. So you can go in and rebrowse just by the hospital tag. You can sort of mix and match. You can narrow and expand your search pretty much all you want. So if I go back, so that's really what we provide for the end users. On the publisher side of things, it's very important to be able to maintain your data. So a lot of organizations or governments have produced a huge number of data, and there isn't necessarily a standard automated way to track that data, to see when it was last updated, to browse through it, to get statistics on how much data you have on spending or transparency, how much data you have on a local level, on a government level. And CKAN kind of comes with those tools out of the box, as well as sort of workflow and harvesting, which I'll talk about in a bit. So the main thing is that we provide a guided process for creating data sets. So we kind of, CKAN sort of comes out of the box with a kind of DCAT Dublin core set of metadata, but this can be expanded and customized specifically to the types of metadata fields that you want to capture. So a publisher can come in and be guided through entering the metadata for the data, so it can add title and description, tags, license, what the publishing organization is, whether it's the National the Office of National Statistics or the Department of Transport, and actually upload or just link to these files. We actually do have support for local storage, so if people want to use CKAN as a kind of central store, they can, or if they just want to point to the metadata, to the data in the metadata, that's fine. And you can capture a whole variety of data of who the maintainers are, who the authors are, what the geographical coverage is, what the temporal coverage is, what are the kind of topics or themes or groups, all this kind of stuff. And importantly, once that is captured in a standard way, you can also edit it and update it. By having this standard kind of metadata schema, you enable these kind of broad searches and browsers for the end users, but also means that you can have statistics on, how much open spending data or how much UK specific data or how much data you have for this particular year. And so you can provide reports and have an automated way of tagging things and showing who the maintainers are and providing FOI contact details, for example, if you have a freedom of information mandate. In addition, one of the very new things that we've added to CKAN recently is this concept of authorization and access control. So we've had it before, but we've had it on a dataset specific level, and now it's on an organization level. So the organization is sort of the publishing body of datasets, and the way it works is that as a member of an organization, so for example, if you're a member of NASA, NASA has a lot of data. You are added as a kind of role, so you might be an administrator, so you can manage other members, or just an editor and you can add data sets, or maybe just a member, which you can see everything but you can't add things. These roles are configurable. You can change how many you have. You can have like 5, and you can change what exactly it means. And this means that when I go in and add a data set, and if I then quit and leave, the data set will be accessible to anyone else who had the same authorization level as me. So if I was an editor, then all the other editors would have the same access to it. So you can manage authorization in a distributed way. So each kind of publishing organization can manage their own process and can sort of scale, because it means that different people can take on the responsibility of publishing data online and maintaining it, which will encourage people to have good quality metadata that is up to date. We've also added the ability to approve datasets, so you can actually go in and maybe as an editor create the dataset, but you won't be able to make it public and actually searchable and viewable. Someone else, such an approver or an admin, will have to go in and actually approve this. So that means you can have sort of multi-stages of approval. So at the moment we have like a basic kind of, it's either private or it's public, and you can go in and manage this. Obviously, if you're dealing with a lot of data sets, you need to find all these private data sets. You can facet by public or private, or by the tags or search, or add the last modified field as well. And that gives you kind of control of what's in there. Out of the box, CKAN also comes integrated with its own sort of stats package and with Google Analytics. I mean, I say out of the box, it's probably actually an extension, because the way CKAN is architected is that we have a core functionality and then extensions that extend it. But you don't have to use everything. So you don't have to use the social features or the kind of following stuff that Christian was showing. You could just have a basic catalog. In the same way, you don't actually have to install the analytics. But these actually feed into the kind of most popular orderings, because we count the sort of the dataset views and download counts and which datasets have been revised, and you can sort of see activity across the portal and how many datasets there are, what users are kind of adding the most datasets, or what organizations. We have reasonably sophisticated geospatial functionalities that I won't go into too much detail, but I will just sort of touch upon. And we're currently extending those in terms of what different standards we support. Christian showed below that you can actually preview things in the Data Explorer when you have the latitude, longitude, or GeoJSON in your spreadsheet. Oh. And okay, for some reason it's not going too well. Right. And we also have support for geospatial search, so as well as filtering by facets and formats and tags, you can actually facet by location. So you can type in, you know what, I only care about data in Berlin. And you can draw a bounding box to sort of further narrow the data. And we support Wms Previews. So if you actually go to data.gov.uk, you can see their sort of UKLP datasets will have this functionality to add to Map Viewer. And basically that means that for geospatial specific data, so kind of layered data overlays, so like for planning permission or kind of topology and kind of different things that people store, you can actually compare these layers and see them on a map, which is a lot more meaningful often than just the raw data itself, where you have to have specific programs to be able to preview it. One of the most sophisticated aspects of CKAN is its harvesting functionality. And I think that that's really something that means CKAN stands out from pretty much anything else out there, which is we have this process to get metadata from external catalogs and endpoints and parse it, validate it, and normalize it in a way that to the end user you have a unified display. So keywords match to tags, and titles or names, they're part of the same thing and they're indexed in the same way, so you can still browse and look through all of them. So if you think about Publicdata.eu, it has records from 18 different catalogs. Not all of them are based on CKAN. They will often have their own metadata schema, a different way to kind of access it. And we've written functionality to ensure that we can sort of crawl and get that data, but also ensure that it's of a good enough quality. So we'll have validators to reject different entries if it's missing a resource or something else. And the moment we can harvest close to sort of automatically other CKAN catalogs and CSW endpoints and web accessible folders that serve ISO 1939 documents. So this is sort of an example of a harvest source form where you can sort of give the URL of where the kind of catalog actually sits, and you kind of choose what source type it is. So this is specific to a particular instance that doesn't harvest from CKAN, but normally source type you'd sort of have, is it a CKAN catalog, at which point we can usually harvest that very, very easily, or whether it's sort of one of these other kind of standards that we support, and what kind of validation, how often it should be updated. So the important thing with harvesting, especially other catalogs, is really our ability to be able to tell what dataset entries have changed and have been deleted or updated. So we're not actually going through and deleting everything we initially had and harvesting a whole new catalog, but we are intelligently just updating individual records. That means we need to have unique IDs for each dataset and all kinds of things to be able to update that and know that we're talking about the same dataset when we're overwriting it or updating it. And so we also actually have reasonably sophisticated error reports and kind of harvest jobs that run and show you which things have been updated, which things have been deleted, what things weren't created as a record because there was an error. And you can kind of go in and debug them. So all this harvesting, it enables some form of federation, because it means that you can get data sets in and out of catalogs. So they're not just sort of locked in but there's a way to get to them. So that means you can have aggregator sites such as Publicdata.eu that allow users to search across so many catalogs. However, there's still a lot more work to be done in this area. One of the things that the Open Knowledge Foundation is involved in is the Data Catalog Interoperability Protocol, which lives on spec.datacatalogs.org, which talks about what and suggests a standardization for a metadata schema, but more importantly for kind of the API calls that we need to be able to talk to the different catalogs and get to the metadata fields. So CKAN comes with a full JSON API that lets you do everything you can do in the interface and probably more to be able to kind of filter and search and get to data sets and download them and get to all the fields. But for harvesting, you really need the other catalogs or the other kind of harvest sources to give you the same access. So lastly, CKAN being a kind of big open source community project, it has been translated by the community, so the interface has been translated into over 18 languages. We have full support for international characters. We've actually added support for kind of multilingual search, so your interface might be in French, but you might type in English or German. And we have a way to intelligently try and prioritize the search results and perhaps even download strings. So download some of the titles using a vocabulary like Eurovoc, and for our software to know what metadata language a dataset is in. So a dataset could have actually multiple versions of metadata. It could have one in English, one in French that we can return. So this is the work that we've done as part of building the European Commission Open Data Portal, and it's also kind of being extended by countries such as Canada, who obviously are bilingual, and all their government sites have to be bilingual. All our code is open source. It's on GitHub. It's being daily or hourly updated, so you can keep up to track with everything we're doing. We have an open issue tracker. We accept code contributions, so the details are on GitHub, and we actually aim to document everything we're doing and all our different extensions so that people can use and set up CKAN themselves. So obviously we have clients who pay us to do customization and deployment, but we also really care about the community being able to use CKAN and for there to be a free open source solution for making your data available to everybody, because that's kind of the main thing we care about. In the last year or two, really, CKAN has become pretty much a standard around the world for governments and organizations. So next week, data.gov will be launching with their CKAN catalog that you'll be able to see. That will probably be announced next week, hopefully, or in a couple of weeks. And Data.gov UK has been using CKAN since 2007. Recently, it's relaunched in the last year and a bit with CKAN on the front end. So this is actually CKAN that you're looking at, as well as numerous organizations and countries. So kind of everything from community projects to organizations like the International Aid Transparency Initiative, to Brazil, to cities like Helsinki, Austria, Norway. You can actually see a list of instances that we know about on ckan.org/instances and get involved. And that's it for me.
So thank you. There are already some questions there. One is about the tagging. Are those tags, hospital, population alike, provided by the user itself, or is this provided by another instance, by the CKAN network? So speaking as a controlled vocabulary. Is there a policy, or is this?
Sure. So tags are usually added by the publishers, so the people who actually own the datasets. On most kind of government organization websites. However, you can set the permissions to be different. So for example, on our kind of community hosted site, datahub.org or Datahub.io, datahub.io, anyone can actually edit and add tags. So it's sort of like it's a space where people working on open data essentially have free hosting of the data, and people can add to it. But usually, governments will have some kind of tag vocabulary that they sort of enforce. So I think the UK government, one of the things that they mandate is that each department publishes monthly reports of over 25,000 spending. So they need to like essentially put a report saying these are all the things that we spent over 25,000 on this month, and they have to have a specific tag that they use so that that data can be all pulled out together in one go, because it's obviously useful to be able to track this over time.
Okay, thank you. So maybe the question to all people to put open questions into the question tab in your control panel, so that I can read them to Irina, Christian, or Sander. So another question which is come in: who is populating the portal with dataset or respective metadata? I think it's about how the stream is organized from the local portals to the Publicdata.eu portal. Who has how is it's developing? Should they apply for being in Publicdata.eu, or is there an agent who's going around and see, oh, there's another CKAN instance which we haven't already covered? So how is
Sure. So I think maybe Sandy, you want to talk about this. So I think initially we added a number of catalogs that we knew about, and those are ones that were kind of initially harvested in at the beginning of the project. And over time, we're trying to obviously expand what's in Publicdata.eu because it's more valuable the more kind of data that's in there.
Yeah, so we're quite keen to get additional aggregate extra information from other government portals, and we welcome anyone, if there's anyone in the webinar currently who's hosting an open data portal that is part of a local government or a regional government or a national government indeed in the EU. We're welcome to contact us. There's on the about page of Publicdata.eu, you can see our email address info@publicdata.eu. And we are working with new open data portal maintainers to add information from other open data portals at the moment. Whether or not we can integrate information from other portals depends on the technology that they use for their open data portals. If they use CKAN as well, that's quite easy, because CKAN has an API that we obviously support because it is so similar. But we also are looking at integrating other open data portals that use similar technologies or have APIs available that make use of similar protocols. So if you are hosting an open data portal and you would like to have that integrated in Publicdata.eu, please contact us, and we'll work on a one-to-one basis to see if we can harvest your site as well. At the moment, this is not something that happens automatically. This is a manual task, but one of the things that we're working on is to see if we can make that automatic, so that it makes the information that is available through Publicdata.eu as accurate and as reasoned as possible.
Okay, thank you. Then there's another question about copyright. So lots of different copyrights and licensing schemes are collected with this within Publicdata.eu. How is the combination to be done? If I'm accessing several data sets with different copyrights, is there an experience, or is there an aid from Publicdata.eu how to work with this?
So the only thing that we do is we actually label whether something is kind of open in the way that we define by the open definition or not. So basically, generally, we name the license that we managed to get from the metadata. And if we have this so kind of already assessed as it's definitely open according to our definition in terms of reuse, then we add this kind of like open data label. And one of the things that we can add, which is actually not here at the moment, but I think was around before, is a way to facet just by definitely openly licensed data. If things don't have that label, then it should still be possible to kind of to kind of try and find out by looking maybe on the source page. So here the license isn't specified, but we kind of link back to the source. So maybe if you go back to the original data set where it was published, then there should be sort of some kind of contact details where you can say, okay, well, what is the license for this data? In general, you know, we assume that all this data is all this data is open, but it's not always explicitly stated.
Okay, then there's another question which goes back to the very first slides of the presentation about the LOD2 stack, and it's very simple. Can someone integrate D2R server with CKAN? I think this is one for Christian. Hello?
Yes, what was the question again, please?
The question was about the integration of D2R server, which is also in the LOD2 stack, with CKAN. So how is CKAN integrated in the overall LOD2 concept? Maybe you can rephrase it a little bit in this direction. So the interchange between different modules of the LOD2 stack.
Sure. I don't think actually I would be the one to answer that. Sander, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here. I must admit that I'm also not the most technical brain on the panel, so I wonder if Irina, if we could pass it all the way around to Irina to see if you're familiar with D2R and the plans that we have on integrating with that. In general, I could say that the tool that we have with CKAN is obviously broader than just linked data, and we do work with specific support for linked data, for example, with exporting through the tool that Christian showed on the wiki page. And those are a few specific components that make it possible to integrate linked data better with CKAN. But I'm not sure about D2R. I'm not sure, Irina, if there's anything that you could say on that.
Hi, so I don't know about the D2R tool specifically. I know that there were a couple of, there've been kind of ongoing meetings and ideas about how to integrate CKAN closer with the LOD2 stack, and actually, instead of it just being the kind of the storage discovery place, that it's part of this process of cleaning up and linking data as well. The main things that we have done is what Christian showed, which is the kind of the RDF mapping, and we're kind of serving it just more as a here is like a centralization of things to try and facilitate the linking. But I think basically ideas are welcome on integrations that we can do. But there isn't sort of something that is existing right now.
I think we
Just
can.
One thing I'd like to add to that, if that's okay, Thomas. I'd like to add one thing. There's a public list on list.okfn.org for LOD2. So any specific questions from people in the audience that are interested in discussing around the integration of Publicdata.eu or tools in general that are part of the LOD2 stack, we welcome you to join us on the LOD2 mailing list and to have the discussion there, so everyone can chip in with their own specific knowledge on this, and then we welcome to discuss this further there.
Hope you enjoyed staying with us. If you need more detailed information, visit us at www.LOD2.eu and let us know how we can improve to meet your expectations. Don't forget to register for our next webinar. Have a great day and don't forget.